When you're choosing between a school psychology PhD program and a clinical PsyD program, there are a few things that I would suggest. My personal experience is very limited in this capacity because I applied to the school where I was already working, and so basically I chose my career based on what they had offered there. Initially, I started in a non-doctoral program, so in a specialist of school psychology program, transitioned to the doctoral program, so I also don't have the experience of applying to different PsyDs and PhD programs. With that caveat said, from my understanding, here is kind of the things that I would think about in weighing these two options. If you want to work with kids, both of these will get you there. Does the clinical PsyD have a specialized child and adolescent track? That would be really helpful because if not, you have to gain those experiences through practicum, through different placements, through different didactics, and it may not be as comprehensive as if it did have a standalone track. With school psychology, you are working primarily with school-aged children, and that kind of extends to age 22, so young adults, because of special education. So the focus is going to be a little bit different. In my school psychology PsyD program, I had one adult psychopathology course, and I think that was the bulk of it. Again, clinical psychology probably focused on adults unless it has that child track. The other thing that I would consider is the practicum experiences that you get. In my program, we had our practicum schedule pretty much delineated, so we knew that the first year we were going to do this, the second year these were the options, third year blah blah blah. You always got a practicum, you were always kind of matched, and so we had experiences every single year that counted toward those clinical hours. So we had a lot. I think I applied to internship with over 1,200 hours of experience, which in other programs, they earn maybe 400, 500. So again, a lot of direct experience. And I think that points to the PsyD aspect of it. The clinical psychology PsyD program at my school that I went to for school psychology was a little bit different. They had really big cohorts of about 100 and something. Mine was 14. And the difficulty with that is that you have to apply and interview for these practicum sites, and then you may not get placed with a practicum. So you might go a whole academic year without having those clinical experiences, which to me is wild, because why would a school allow students not to have those opportunities, because then they become less competitive going on to internship and further on. And I would look into that. Do they have a prescribed kind of series of experiences for you, or do you have to do the legwork in finding these experiences, applying, and then getting in? Or do they have the sites, like is it a hybrid? Do they have these sites listed out, but then you still have to apply and maybe you won't get it? That would be limiting. I touched on it a little bit, but cohort sizes. Smaller cohorts, better. You get to build closer relationships, not just with each other, but also with the staff members there. So lots of opportunities for mentorship, hopefully, a lot more kind of directed experience. Larger cohorts may have more competition, and so it may feel more kind of like back to those high school days rather than being more collaborative. In terms of your goal for teaching in the future, I believe what I have understood is that in clinical programs, they really want clinical PhD. For whatever reason, I don't know. And I don't know if that's true. That's just what I have heard and come to understand. And so I'm not sure if the clinical PsyD will get you those really coveted academia spots. Will you be able to teach at maybe undergraduate programs or graduate programs, depending, right? Yeah, maybe. And then if not, with the PhD in school psychology, I also don't know if a clinical psychology department would hire a school psychology PhD. Those are things to find out. I think in a school psychology department, yes, you would very clearly be able to work with that. Probably even as a clinical PsyD, you'd be able to work in a school psychology PhD program. And then the final consideration is the actual scope of what you're learning. In a school psychology program, the focus is school psychology. So you're working a lot on learning academic disabilities. So autism, developmental disability, learning disorders, ADHD, the things that pop up in special education. That is the bulk of it. That is how the training model works. Whereas in clinical psychology, you are learning from the psychopathology lens. So all of these disorders and mental illnesses, that is the bulk of your training. So I am a school psychology trained clinician who is working in psychiatry departments and works in a very clinical space. And so I have had to learn a lot of that, like quick diagnostic sort of decision making along the way. Can you learn it? Yes. Similarly, if you go to a clinical psychology program, can you learn the functions of an IEP? Can you learn about school systems? Can you learn about, RTI, response to intervention? Yes. So either one can be supplemented. It just depends on what kind of space you'd like to be working in. But again, school psychology trained, I work in hospital settings. Currently, I'm not just in an early psychosis intervention clinic, but I'm also in a hematology oncology outpatient clinic. So very varied experiences. That may not be an exhaustive list of the things that I would think about, but they're definitely the things that are front of mind for me. But if you have additional questions, let me know.